So, just since it is a small group, maybe we'll just do a little check-in. For those of you guys that don't know who I am Shannon Moore. I live in Visalia, California. I am a high school English slash speech teacher. And then I am the tech coach at my site. So, tech coach is new for us at our site. We haven't had them before. In fact, I found out yesterday we have one instructional tech coach at the district level for all of secondary. So that's fascinating to me. It's just not a thing we do. We have IT people, but so I'm excited that I get the opportunity to come alongside our teachers. We're 100% virtual, and the county that I live in doesn't look like we're going back like anytime soon. So it's been an interesting ride, and I'm excited to join Georgina on the book study. We've had a lot of fun kind of coming up with questions and discussing and dialoguing. We thought we'd try a new time. Looks like 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning seems to be a better time, but we'll play with it as we go. But I thought since our group is small, maybe you guys we could just go around, have a conversation, introduce yourselves, perhaps tell kind of how is teaching going, what's your role? And then one of the questions was, what goal do you have for yourself as a tech coach this year? So I'd love to hear those. Either of you want to go ahead?
I can, yeah. So I also, Shannon and I have talked about this. I also am a full-time teacher, tech coach role. We actually don't have a tech coach position at all at my school, and my district doesn't have that even in mind. We have instructional coaches at different levels for different schools, which is great because when I need, an instructional coach for biology, it's a quick email and they'll come visit.
Yeah.
So I'm actually taking this role on because I'm very passionate about it and hoping to kind of pitch it to my principal next year and be like, look, we need it. This is why, and here's what happened last year. And so that's essentially my goal this year, is to kind of spearhead this and see how it goes and see how it works, and maybe start it at my district, at least at the school level, individual school level.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. I think that it's nice to see other people who are full-time teachers doing also either in a formal or informal capacity, the idea of coaching other teachers, and it's so needed right now. So Frances, what about you?
Me, so I am Frances from the UK. I've been teaching English to international students for a long time now. Too long, I don't want to say. So I've taught in France, Belgium, Greece, but I'm from the UK and I'm back in the UK now. So I am teaching in a big FE college, which is 16 and above. So it's a massive college. I couldn't tell you how many students, probably about 20,000 students. I don't know. So most of us are currently online, virtual. But there's massive problems at the moment. Everybody was supposed to start back last week, but nobody can get on the system. There's massive problems. So it's just a bit of a nightmare. Same as everybody else, really, I guess. What else do I want to say? So I've been a learning and development coach since March, when we went into lockdown. So in some ways, the fact that we're working online has made it a lot easier for me, because the teachers have needed me, because they've always refused to use Google Classroom before, and that is now our VLE that we have to use. So in a way, it's been a big advantage, and I've really enjoyed it. But yeah, really busy, and yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Wonderful. That's great. I love how you were in the beginning. I've been doing this a long time, but I'm not going to say. I think that's awesome. It's always wonderful to see people and engage with people who've been doing it much longer than I have, because you guys bring so much experience and wisdom to the table. So, and I always love reading your stuff. So I'm glad you're
here. Thank you.
Becky, what about you?
All right. Hi, everyone. So my name is Becky. I am an instructional coach in Newhall in Southern California. We're still in Los Angeles County, so we'll be virtual for a very, very long time. But we are an elementary only district, so we only go up to 6th grade. And as far as my goals for this year, I want to focus on finding bright spots and focus on finding those celebrations with teachers. There's so much stress happening right now, and as I was sharing with you all at the beginning, we have even more stress with the fact that we are not able to be in school at all this week or next week because of the attack. So I know coming back, whenever we do, our teachers are going to be next level stressed of now they've missed out on more time, and then families are going to be coming back feeling stressed about student security and all of that. So my focus is truly just to find bright spots and to lighten the load. And I really liked how Jenny worded it last week, where she said, as coaches, our goal is to not go in and ask anything of the teachers. We are not asking them to give you anything, to be evaluated by you, any of that. Our goal is to truly be the one person who goes and gives to the teacher. So I'm trying to keep that in mind when I meet with any teachers, to just be like, what can I give you? Is it time by helping you with X, Y, and Z? Or is it a strategy where we do this together? I don't want to go and be like, here's a strategy, watch this video and try it on. But what can I give this year? So that's my focus.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was really rich, the way that she said that last week. And even as simply as like, let me make your copies. I mean, we're obviously virtually, so it doesn't matter, but let me make your copies, or let's just plan together and spend that time. Hi, Rick. Hi, Melissa. So we're just essentially just starting off before we jump into the text, introducing who we are, what we do, and one goal maybe that we have, whether you're informally or formally in a coaching capacity. So you, Melissa, you want to start us off? And then we'll go to Rick.
Sure. Okay. So sorry I was late. I was delivering a training to one of our middle schools on our parent communication thing. So what was the question?
So who are you?
Who am I?
What do you do?
I'm Melissa Shields. This is my 4th year as an ed tech coach. And prior to that, I've been teaching for 27 years. And mostly science, pretty much all science, middle school. Middle schoolers are my jam, they're the best. And but let me just share, so this whole coaching thing, I actually, can I share a little mini story? Super?
Absolutely,
keep it short.
Please.
So
No
I love teaching, I love kids, but I started getting bogged down with all of these stuff that's not about kids. And it was like sucking the life out of me. And so I said, I've got to do a career change. I'm going to change my job. I'm not happy anymore because I don't even get to enjoy the kids the way I want to. And no. So I was looking for a whole new career change. And I thought, well, anything I would have done, I would have had to take like this ridiculous pay cut, like a master's degree and anything else. So I said, fine, we're getting more and more technology. I'll go get my master's in education technology because I need to learn it anyways. We're getting new stuff. And so I need to know how it works. So I got that. Went to my graduation. A week after I got back, they floated the position of an ed tech coach, and I got it. So I mean, like, I was so excited, you have no idea. I was like crying when I got offered the job. I was like, I still wasn't sure. She's like, so we're wondering, if you're available. And I'm like, wait, are you offering me a job? And I was like, I can't believe it. So, and I love my job because I spend so much time learning. But one thing that I'm really hoping to get from this group is because our teachers, like I still have to tell, like even today, I had to say, the principal called me a tech. And I said, I'm not a tech, I'm a teacher. So I had to, I'm a little bit techie, but I am a teacher. So, but I still have to reiterate that at every meeting, every time I'm talking, and the teacher will say, hang on a second, I'm in with the tech. And I'm like, I'm not a tech, I'm a teacher. And trying to move from that role of problem solving. And right now with internet and all of our systems we use ClassLink, and ClassLink is down every day. Monday, Zoom is down, Google Drive, all these things. So we're just putting out fires left and right. There's 4 of us in our district. We're in Palmdale. So Becky, you're my neighbor. But it's just, anyway, so I'm trying to move from being panic tech support to, hey, so I have 2 bright spots kind of a thing. Last week I had a teacher who was super stressed, and she was like, oh, this is going on. And then she goes, I'm telling you this because I trust you. And I was like, oh, trust me. So, and And after just hearing, she was very upset with her administrator. And so I was like, okay, how do I do this without like, like let her vent, but at the same time hold the position of administrator. And I said, well, let me see how I can work with you. So I actually got her to agree to start scheduling regular appointments with me so that we can meet and start working on helping her grow in her practice. And I said, and look, you can show your administrator that you're meeting with a coach. And so they'll be like really happy that you're doing whatever. So that was the one bright spot. And I've already forgotten what the other one was because that one was so exciting to me. I don't know. I was just so excited when she told me that she trusts me. I'm like, so.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's really awesome. I think that that's wonderful. I think that those are the things that keep us going, right? And so it's really wonderful when those connections are made, because I think those are the connections that then will word of mouth. They'll talk to other people, and they're like, "There's this great opportunity," and hopefully you have more and more that are reaching out. So wonderful! Thanks for sharing. It's nice. It's warm, nice to my warm heart. Rick, what about you?
What are we sharing again?
Who are you? What do you do? And informally or formally, what's a goal you have for yourself in regards to like coaching others?
Cool. My name is Rick Ballou. It'll show up as Frederick Ballou over there, but I go by Rick. I teach 5th grade band in Bloomington, Minnesota. I'm in 10 schools, technically 11 now, since we created an online school, and I get to do that as well. Every child is required to play an instrument in my district, and we have enough instruments to give everyone an instrument, so that's cool. The bummer is we're fully distance learning right now, and we don't know how that's going to happen because they haven't picked their instruments yet. So we're in the process of helping them pick the instruments without having them play test them, because it's really hard to play test without creating, a worse pandemic. So you're blowing this, now you blowing this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that would be a bummer. But what I've taken to doing is I talk, because part of the coach thing, right, is to get an administrator on board. And so I'm pretty tech savvy. So I've been coaching my team, and my team that goes to the 11 schools, it's 2.5 of us, because why would we hire more than that? So right. 2.5 of us, I'm coaching them. And then there's of the 10 elementary schools, there are a few of the technology integrationists who are less than attentive. So I've taken several people in those buildings as like coachees, right? So my thing has been, I'm the after hours guy. So I'm the one that in the middle, like at around 8 o'clock at night when they go, oh God, why isn't this working? I'm the one that they come to and help them with stuff. So I had a bright spot. One of my coachees was trying to use Wakelet because they wanted to do, one of my schools is an arts integration school, and she wanted to do a 3-picture thing, right? Boom, boom, boom. Wakelet can either do 2 or a F ton of them, right?
Right.
And they're in no particular order. And so she was a little like, how do I do this? And I'm like, well, have you heard of Google Sites? Oh my gosh, yeah, I just made one. And so, and just watching her make all these real quick connections, like, oh, I was going to do a Wakelet, but because they're 4th graders, I was going to have to create a Wakelet and enroll them, but we already have G Suite Enterprise, so they can all make their own. And I was like, yup. And so just watching her make all those connections, it was like, oh, cool. So are we done here? And then the meet was over. But still, that getting to have those little things happen is pretty cool. And so even though I'm not technically a coach, because I'm just a band guy, I'm getting the opportunity to do it with other teachers.
Yeah.
Really gross.
That's really, really awesome. I love that. And I think that a lot of the people who are part of our EC Open chat, there's a handful for sure that are doing this in an informal capacity in the hopes that eventually it will evolve to something else. And so, those voices are equally important. And, it's really, really cool. They're important. You're incredible. Okay, cool. So chapter 7 is the rethinking assessments. And is it okay if I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if you guys are good with that? Give me just a second.
I'm sorry, there's a book involved?
There is this great thing that you read. All right. So, chapter 7, we didn't get a chance really to, my screen's good, right? I'm not super familiar with Meet. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. Cool. We're a Zoom district. But chapter 7, we didn't really get a chance to talk about chapter 6 because we spent time with Amanda and Jenny, which was absolutely wonderful. I think the hour of time we spent with them 2 weeks ago was just, we had so many great nuggets of knowledge. But chapter 6, I don't want to just like completely, not say anything about it, because I think that it focused on differentiation. And I think all of us in this Meet can agree that like differentiation is something that I think a lot of teachers are constantly discussing and struggling with and trying to figure out how to best manage it, because it is one of those things that's challenging, especially if you have a variety of level of students within a class, right? And that's at any subject. So one of the things that she brought up in her book was this idea of cloning the teacher. And I looked back on some of the responses, and I'm curious. I guess I want to start off by just like kind of chatting with you guys about it, maybe getting your thoughts on that before we move to 7. What do you guys think about that idea of like cloning the teacher, or using like screencast videos to essentially support in a differentiation kind of capacity? Have you used it before? Have you worked with teachers that are struggling with it, or maybe have been successful at it? Maybe a quick little narrative you guys can share.
So the quickest narrative I have, I actually shared this with one of the teachers I'm coaching this year. And the first thing she said was, she was like, honestly, I don't know where I'm going to find the time to create that many videos. I'm already creating videos for every lesson. So now I need to create 5 videos for every lesson. And I was like, oh, that actually was a really big ask.
Yeah.
And so I did have to step back and say no, because when would you?
Right.
So instead it was what could we take out? But do you need a video for math every single day? And do you need a video for phonics every single day, or word work every single day? I said, maybe we actually need to cut out some of your videos and instead like look at, okay, I could create this video for this subject area for today, and then tomorrow's asynchronous assignment could build off of that video still, so they can go back and watch it more than once, like get more value out of our videos. And then let's start with one time this week for one assignment. We'll clone you and just do 3 different levels. And then the big thing though that we're working on is your videos don't have to be perfect. And I believe she said it in the book. It's been a minute since I've read chapter 6, where it was like, you need to make mistakes in your videos because you would in your classroom, and the kids still need to see that. I know, well, we're not all perfect, Rick. So like, I make those mistakes all the time.
Right.
So really just kind of working on that and understanding. And then I offered to create some videos for her too. So that way I could put myself in those shoes and be vulnerable with her. And she liked that idea. So if you're going to go this route, especially with coaching, what I learned was go slow, because after she said it was daunting, I was like, that is daunting. That was a really, really big ask and would be incredibly unfair to be like, should we try this on? Create 500 videos for Monday. It's Friday.
Right.
Like, go. So that was my awesome moment.
Yeah, that's a really great point. That idea that like, sometimes I don't think we think about the fact that like, we're like, just make these videos, but sometimes I don't think we stop and pause and think about, for some people, that's a big thing. So, Francis, I believe that you made a comment on there, maybe it was you, about having your kids take over some of that role. Was that your comment?
Yeah, that was definitely me. I mean, I would agree totally with what Becky's just said, that I could not ask my teachers to make all those videos. No way. They've just not got time and they wouldn't do it. But for me personally, like, if you can get your kids to do that, like, that's amazing, and that's the best thing. That's the best way to go. But encouraging some of my teachers to do that, I think I'm going to have to show them by doing it myself first, because most of them won't allow their kids to take that lead yet.
Absolutely.
But I think I would really like to go that way.
Yeah, I'd love to hear how that like goes. If you can find a teacher who actually like maybe implement some of that, I think that'd be a really cool thing, because not only does it encourage the teacher to say, "Hey, I trust," to their kids, "Hey, I trust you," but also it allows the students to have some of that ownership, and teacher can kind of then coach, right? So I think I thought that was a really cool thing, and if you do it, if you find someone, you let us know, because I'd love to hear
Yeah,
about it.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Other thoughts, Rick or Melissa or Jessica, before we kind of transition?
We did kind of a clone. We cloned our teachers, so to speak, because we're all distance learning, right?
Right.
At least right now. As we're at this point where we're showing the kids the instruments they can choose from, the 2.5 of us didn't want to record videos of literally every instrument. So we got a hold of our civic orchestra and just created a flip grid and sent it out to them and said, "Hey, we're giving you a minute and a half." Like I put the put the time run, like cannot go over that because I can't pay attention that long. An 11-year-old definitely can't. So we sent out flip grids to the civic orchestra. The bummer is it's not what you'd call diverse. So it's a bunch of middle-aged white folk, which
Right.
doing the string stuff. But then we also sent it to our middle school band directors. These are the kids and orchestra directors. So when they're done with us, assuming they continue, they've already met those people. So we're having them create the videos for us. So we didn't have to create the demo videos. So in a way of cloning, I like Francis's idea of having the students do the work. But if you've got a team of teachers, there's no reason why you can't diversify. My daughter's in 4th grade and she has one 4th grade teacher, but all the classes that we're unfortunately pushing out through Seesaw, not that Seesaw's bad, we love Seesaw, but everything that's going out through Seesaw, each of the 4th grade teachers is one's doing the math content, one's doing the reading content, you know what I mean? And so if you've got a team that's friendly enough that's willing to do it, you can have that work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good idea. I love that idea of like collaborative approach, especially when it's like here and now. Melissa or Jessica, have anything to add to this about screencasting for differentiation or sharing the wealth? Or Jessica?
I love those ideas, and I love the team teach approach. I know I discussed it with some of my science teachers at the end of last year. You know, we're working over the summer and we can't go anywhere anyway because Florida was its own dumpster fire this summer. And so we're like, let's make videos and share, because we all teach biology. And it never happened, but it was definitely something that was discussed that would help just lighten the load. And so, like you said, instead of cloning yourself, if you work with that team teach method, if you have nice enough teachers who are willing to help, then, because that's also key, then I think that's a great idea and something I think I'm going to circle back on.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome. Really cool. Okay. I might be having internet issues, or it might be you guys, but you're frozen on my end. So we'll just kind of keep going, and hopefully you can hear me. Jessica, can you hear me okay? You're the only one I can see. Cool. Melissa, did you have a thought?
No, I can see and hear everybody. Everybody's moving fine on my end. So
probably me then. So we'll just go ahead. So we talked kind of a little bit about our idea of this goal, right, that we kind of set for ourselves as coaches. So I'm just going to pursue to the questions. So chapter 7 was all about assessment. And in assessment, it's one of those things that, we talk a lot about alternative assessments, providing opportunities for students to show their work in a lot of different ways. But we all know as teachers, former teachers, coaches, that creating assessments sometimes are challenging and takes time and yeah, right. Nobody likes them. One of the aspects that Magira, she highlights is this idea of grading, right? So she says that the struggle, there's the struggle of grading, but also like she makes a point to point out that their immediate feedback is like super, super important for like student growth. So, what are some tech tools, especially for those people that are going to be watching after, we're done here? What are some tech tools that like you have found that have been successful in providing that like constructive feedback on assessments so that your students can move forward? Or what tech tools have the people you're coaching, what have they been using?
I can start.
Sure.
So you and I had that Pear Deck. Pear Deck has been a wonderful thing, and I wish that I had found that sooner. But being able to like pivot on a dime and provide either individual or whole group feedback on those informal assessments you can kind of throw in there has been wonderful, because it's real time and you can address misconceptions really quickly, or you know, redirect or whatever. So I think that's great, but also taking the time to provide quality feedback on projects and like paper, like writing and stuff like that, it can get really tedious and it can get exhausting. And you know, you look at your stack of papers, your virtual stack of papers, and you're like, you know, and you start out giving really great quality feedback, and then by the end, not even it's not as good, it's not as quality, it's not the same. So Moat voice recordings has definitely been a game changer as well, because it's quick. You can provide more feedback, more quality feedback, even from the beginning. And you kind of get into a pace, you get into, you know, a groove, and it's not as tedious and it's not as exhausting. And you can do the similar things with Screencastify and Loom, which I'm a fan of as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, no, Moat has been, as an English teacher, Moat has been like a life changer, being able to provide those like voice comments and not have to type the same thing over and over again. Melissa, will you talk us through the Edu protocol you highlighted there, the Fast and the Furious?
Oh yeah, so we had the pleasure of having John Carippo came out. He was at the time the COO or whatever of the chief learning guy of Q, and he came out to our EdTech summit that we had in Palmdale and shared some things with us. And one of the things he brought up was quizzes, and I've used Kahoot, but I found that I really enjoy quizzes so much better, just because it allows kids to work at their own pace. But how, well, here's one way I used it with a teacher, is that she was telling me, oh yeah, now I've got to teach the states. So I figure we'll go through, you know, these 7 states this week, and we'll go through these 10 states this week. And and I was like, that's a lot of time spending on, you know, teaching the states. And, you know, something simple as, I think, capitals and their names and maybe where they are. And I said, let me show you something, and I can save you a ton of time. And I just basically, I Googled it inside of quizzes, right? I just searched for like 50 states or something, and teachers have already created things. So there's this huge word bank, you can access it. You guys are probably all already familiar with quizzes, yeah. Oh, you gotta check it out. You're gonna love it. Oh, you have no idea. So, okay, so now I'm excited. I gotta tell you. So quizzes. So the thing with the states is, you know, you throw it in there. You search for it. Teachers have already created it. They've shared it. You can copy what somebody else has done. You make a copy of it. You can tweak it however you want. You can add pictures to it. You can extend the time that kids have to look at it. They can look at it for 10 seconds. They can look at it for 5 minutes. And they work at their own pace. You don't have to, like, you know, Kahoot. I think you mentioned Kahoot, Rick, about, you know, you've got the music playing and it's, you know, and the kids have to wait until everybody finishes answering or until you stop it. Well, on quizzes, they get to go at their own pace. And what I really like about quizzes are the reports. So what I would, okay, I'm already moving off the stage thing. I'm going to my science stuff, okay, because I was a science teacher for 26 years, whatever. Is that I would use it to give the kids, because, you know, 7th grade science, you got mitochondria. That does not come up in conversation regularly, okay? So you've got all these words, cellular respiration, all these words the kids had no idea what they were. So I would just throw it in there cold. Boom, here's a list, here's the words, here's the vocabulary. You know, cellular respiration is, and then I give them definitions. And I give it to them cold. The kids looking at it going, we don't know these words. I go, take a guess. Let's just do the best you can. Read them and then see what you got. And they would like it, because if they got it right, they got like success kid going, yes, you know, that little meme. And if they got it wrong, then there was like Macaulay Culkin going, or whatever. And the kids loved it. They went through it. So, and this is like, what, 2 minutes, right? It took me like 2 minutes to find it. I think you could even import, like, I think I like copy definitions from Quizlet. Who knows? It's so easy to use. So We spend 3 minutes. The kids are all kind of having fun. They're totally into it, right? Because they're going at their own pace. Some kids, yes, you've got the kids who are going, psh, whatever, psh, whatever, psh, I don't care, whatever, whatever. That's fine. And then I go, okay. And then I throw the results up on the board. And yes, I throw the results up on the board and they're like, what? We got 14%. And I go, I know, can you believe it? And you haven't even been taught any of it. You got 14 whole percent. You guys are amazing. And they're like, what? And then so we go over it and I go, wow, everybody knows what, chlorophyll is or whatever. So we go over them and I see everybody, they're like color coded. You get to see who did what's right, who is what's wrong. It's that immediate, the kids just took it cold. We go over some of the answers. I go, okay, ready? Here we go again, go. And they're like, we get to go again, but you just told us the answers. I go, I know, right? Go on. So then they go in, they do it again. And of course, some of this is still completely foreign. So then, they get through it. And then now we look at it, but now some of them have paid attention because they're like, oh, what was it she said? Now they're paying attention even more. They go through it. And then I throw up the scores, boom. We only got 28%. I said, you doubled your score. Holy cow, you guys are amazing. I haven't even taught you anything yet. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's kind of cool. I put it away. And then I talk about, content, or we get in our groups, we do whatever. And then 2 days later, I pull out the quizzes again. And they're like, this, oh. And they're like, ready now. Because, some of them looked up some of the words. And then the next, and I throw the scores up there. Oh, look at, we're 40. By Thursday, I've done quizzes maybe twice a day for like 2-3 days out of the week. I say, okay, here we go. Here's for the money. I said, if you guys get like 90% as a class, no test on Friday on vocabulary or whatever. And they're like, what? Oh, so they're like paying attention. But I tell them this on like Tuesday so that some of them start studying. I didn't have to make them study. They're like, I'm going to do whatever I can not to take a test on Friday. And then I just take their scores for, whatever it is. So if I needed to take a grade on vocabulary or whatever, I use this. I didn't have to teach any of it. They spend 5 minutes, and so now they're used to it. So every time I would give them vocabulary code, boom, they would just go. I don't have to spend my time teaching it. Now, did I sometimes still do vocabulary cards and have them write out flashcards? Yes, because some kids want to touch it. So yes, sometimes there were kids who lived for I got my card, here it is, and that's fine. But I love EduProtocols for all of that, or at least the Fast and Furious. And that's why it's called Fast and Furious, because it is. It's like they answer the questions, you throw the answers on the board. Okay, so anyway, I talked way too much, but I get excited about it because the kids get excited about it and they constantly feel successful, especially when they see that I didn't even get taught anything yet and I already doubled my score, and they're so proud. And so it's exciting. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. I love how that's like and it's also like, when you're doing something like that and you tell that story, right? And you get that opportunity to share that little like moment with the people you're coaching, it kind of almost gives them permission to do a little bit more of that gradual release, right? I think individual teachers really do struggle with that, like giving over the control, right? Everybody kind of wants to, but by having those stories and explaining those and those little wins with like, with that fun example, I think that it says it's okay to give over some responsibility to the kids. The gradual release is there and you should, take those little risks because they will pay dividends, right? So I think that's really cool. Thanks for sharing. That was really, really awesome. I actually am planning on going back and telling some people at my site about that because I think it'll work well. Francis, how do you use Flipgrid? Or how have you in the past, or how have people you've been educating? You talked about using Flipgrid for peer assessments. You're muted still. That's Francis. You're muted. It's part of 2020. It's how we roll.
It's getting late here.
No, I get it. You're good.
So yeah, on Monday I was teaching, but I only had 2 in my class. So we did a Flipgrid with one, and then the other one's camera was not working, so they couldn't do it. But yeah, usually the students will do it, and then obviously the peers will go and give their feedback on it. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say really. It just depends what we're doing, but works really well. Yeah, and I've had people, because sometimes it's something, if you're worried about people and differentiating and you've got different levels in the class, I've certainly had the better students say to me, oh, this was really good because it was really challenging and I really had to think about it before I did it. So yeah, really cool.
That's awesome. I love the idea of bringing in, she talks about not having a lot of time and how important immediate feedback is. And I think sometimes we think that has to come from us, right? But ultimately, like, why can't peer feedback work, you know?
I'm really big on peer feedback because I think that's when the students start to really think. And if they can help each other, they can improve themselves as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Rick, you want to add anything, or Becky, before we move to the second question? No? All right, let's go ahead and jump to question 2. Thanks, guys. I'm like so excited because now I have things I get to go share too. So this is another conversation. We kind of talked about this already, this idea that she kind of points out screencasting as a differentiation tool. So we'll go and skip that first part, but let's talk about those last few questions. This section was all about accommodating those with IEPs and 504s, so modifications and accommodations in the classroom, which every single one of us has to, you know, include. It's important. All of the educators we coach will need to think about that. And so what challenges have you maybe experienced accommodating teaching and learning? Maybe let's focus it during like the distance learning or the hybrid or however you are since March. And then how do you think you can help support the educators that you're coaching in like overcoming the barriers that'll be similar?
When we went into lockdown, this is going off of something Francis mentioned about peer feedback, which is huge. And I started using that because I flipped assessment in my band class a long time ago because I didn't want to spend class time hearing each kid play through Hot Cross Buns because, well, it's Hot Cross Buns. No one wants to hear it. But they would record it into Seesaw because that was our platform. And I'd give them the option of Flipgrid, giving them the illusion of voice and choice. You're going to record it, but you can pick which. Anyway, the thing is, they would post it and then I'd make it live and then the other kids could see it. But as soon as we went into distance learning, because of various students having different IEPs and 504s and things like that, our special ed department just went, no one can see anybody unless it's in a meet, and they shut it all off completely. So now kids can't see each other. So like when a kid posts something on Seesaw, the only one who sees it is me. When a kid posts something on Flipgrid, it's got to be moderated. I can't open it up for other people to see, right? And so that's been an accommodation that we've used that does, because there is a certain percentage of our students where it affects them. They just did it for everybody, which is kind of a bummer for the peer feedback part, but it also means that kids are free to, they're not as worried. You know what I mean? Because there were some of my students who just wouldn't do it. So they're like, oh, someone's going to see me. Now no one's seeing them, right? It's just me. So that's been good. And I've noticed a lot more teachers, the ones that I'm helping with, right, are doing a lot more response stuff like this because the kids are less nervous about it. So
yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So even though at first it was kind of like a bummer, now you're seeing a lot more participation. So maybe voices are elevated a little bit more. That's great. What else? What other things have you guys run into as far as accommodating your special pops?
I would say for us, like a big thing, and actually I'm glad this question's brought up. Sorry, I didn't participate much in the slow chat this week. It's been fun. But this was something that we focused on last year with coaching, and I've kind of forgotten this year, is when meeting with a teacher, asking about the teacher's student population, because as the coach, I need to know which students she's serving or he's serving to be able to better help the teacher. They're already stressed enough about technology, and then to say, how are you differentiating to meet the needs of all of your students? Honestly, chances are they probably don't know. And they're like, I'm up 15 hours a day already lesson planning, and now I don't know. And I've also learned that not everybody knows which students in their class are on IEPs and what supports are needed as much as we think you do because you signed the little form. Yeah, you want to jump in?
I usually don't know. I have every fifth grader, and I don't know until someone says, well, you know, they can't do that. I'm like, do now. Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, no, but it happens a lot. So this is actually a reminder for me when I go and meet with the teachers that I'm coaching next week, whenever I get back, to bring up which students are on IEPs because we are working that closely. I mean, it falls under the confidentiality and all of that, but I need to be able to know. So when I'm supporting, I could be thinking of, okay, we should try on this, or the strategy is going to work really well, but we need to change it this way and give some different strategies and tools instead of assuming that the teacher is going to read my mind and fully understand the outcome and then also be able to differentiate on top of that. So when I was in my office, before I would go and co-teach with the teacher, I would look at online and I would look up all the different accommodations I needed to make, whether it was just text size or any of that. And I often found teachers would be like, oh my gosh, this student never does X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, do you always go through and take out some of the content? And they're like, no, why would I do that? Because their IEP says you have to. So we need to talk about that aspect. But as a coach, we need to know. That's the longest way of saying that.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's a good reminder. I mean, you know, because even when we are coaching, right, like we have to make sure that, I mean, so much of coaching is like, yeah, let me hear your problem. But I think a lot of the time it's like, I'm going to come in preemptively with like solutions. And like you mentioned earlier, Becky, like you don't want to tell them what to do. You want to engage in that dialogue and you want them to be able to ask questions and ultimately come to the conclusion themselves. But we have to have solutions just in case that process doesn't get that far. You know what I mean? So that's good. It's good to remember. Other thoughts on question 2? This one's a hard one. Accommodations are always challenging. Yeah. All right, let's move right along. Let's chat about question 3. So this one says, like Magira's students, so she talks about this idea of like, you know, as a teacher, we have to really truly understand like, how does a student process or synthesize or share information? Because everybody has their own different way of doing things, right? And she kind of identified that in a student, and we were thinking like that student, the same is true for the people that we're coaching, right? Like you can't go in with a one size fits all because it's never going to work. And when we were doing the open chat with Google for EDU, right? Just yesterday, geez, that was only yesterday. You know, there's this conversation. It was like, how are you building these connections with teachers and stuff? So what are some ways that you've tried, or some brainstorms maybe that you could throw out that we can use and implement to gain a better understanding of those that we are coaching, and the ways in which they produce and receive that information? And then why is that process so important to the coaching process?
So I love this question. And it's because we're coaches, we're teachers, we're everything, but we're really facilitators between the teacher or the student and the information. And that's the mindset that I try to keep with my teachers, is that I am facilitating the learning, and I am, as a coach, whatever you need, to a point, whatever you need. And so my answer for this one was that, you know, meeting them where they are, never asking for more, which we've hit on a couple of times tonight. But also like stepping back and waiting, listening, observing, and letting them take the lead, and asking like, okay, can you show me, or let me show you and see how it is. And so they're kind of like shaping the process because they're telling me what they need and how they want to proceed, versus, you know, a lot of people are like, it's like with my mom, I'm just like, let me do it. And she's like, no, show me how, but let me go through the motion. You know what I mean? So I think that is important. Stepping back, listening, observing, and kind of letting them take the lead to show you what they need. And it may not be the same every time. And that's the important thing too, is that not everyone is going to be as knowledgeable about a smartboard or a particular app, or just because they're really good with Google doesn't mean, you know, they might get overwhelmed by all the other things that you can do also. So letting them tell you what they need at the time, or for what particular thing, is how I'm approaching it. And I think that it's so far it's been pretty successful. So.
Absolutely. Melissa, you seem like a very like connection oriented human. Like it seems like that's at the foundation of your kind of teaching philosophy, coaching philosophy. So what are some ways over the years that you've found that that you've implemented to better understand your coaches or your educators? Sorry.
Well, I found that I tend to be very empathetic, and I'm not in a debilitating way where I want to fix everything for everybody. I don't, but I do tend to, when I'm listening to people, especially if like the one teacher who was sharing with me, she was very upset and she was just sharing these things, and it was kind of hard because it hurts me to see people hurt. So I started I start crying now. I think about it. Sorry.
It's all right.
But I try to be very I do try to hear, like you mentioned, the listening thing it really is huge. And when I first started, I didn't really understand the job. I was a brand new coach, so I was trying to fix everything, and I, over that year, I really learned a lot about listening, because sometimes what they're complaining about is not really what they want to fix or what they want help with. And so you just have to, I think about Shrek and the onions and the layers, where you have to let them kind of talk and peel stuff off. And then, you say, okay, so here's what I've heard, that kind of that old, I heard you say this, am I right? Because I'm not going to assume that what they said was necessarily, and what I interpreted based on my experience, is what they really meant. I have too often had people go, no, that's not it. And I go, okay. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. And then also, it's kind of hard to do now. I have begged teachers to let me into their Zoom meetings right now because I miss going into the classroom. Can I just come in and see what you're doing? I miss the kids. But kind of watching how the teachers interact with the kids and seeing, when I would go into the classrooms and seeing what they would get frustrated with, and then kind of see. That's why I kind of really like that that gripe jam thing, because I used that with one of the new teachers. And it was funny because when I met with her a second time, she goes, okay, let's go back to my Jamboard, and she would bring up the Jamboard and she'd say, we need to move some stuff around. I go, okay, and she would share some things, but and just really deferring to areas where they tend to be the experts. So like was a science teacher at heart. So when I walk into a special ed classroom, I'm thinking, oh, hey, here's this great tool and here's this great tool. And she's like, no, you don't understand. My kids are not going to be able to do this. It's like, oh, okay. So I think just that's been the easiest way for me, is listening and watching, and then asking, just to make sure I really understand, and like asking not their permission, but like asking them if I understand them. I don't tell them, oh, I understand. I say, do I understand you correctly? And then let them say, yes, you understand me, or no, that's not quite it.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned earlier, the reframing of those phrases of like what I'm hearing allows them to say, yes, you're on point, or no, you're not. Like, let me rethink how I approach that. But I think you also, that idea of empathy, I mean, it goes so far, you know what I mean? As long as you can attempt to put yourself in their shoes, that makes a huge difference. So very cool. For time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and continue on. So the next two questions, they're about creation more than anything in the world. And this first one's about digital portfolios. And it was all about reflection on self and others. And so I'm curious, have you guys created digital portfolios? But even more so, like, how do you see a digital portfolio enhancing your life as a coach? So this isn't about the educator we're coaching. This is about you as a coach. Like, where do you see it adding benefit to your coaching career or life? Francis, I'm going to call on you because you put, ooh.
I put, ooh, because when I saw the question, I couldn't remember reading about that in the book. So then I was just like coming up with some ideas.
I liked them.
So I, like for myself, like I'm find it quite difficult to put my things out there. So I think making myself build a digital portfolio or whatever, and then looking at myself and then thinking, oh, well, actually, yeah, it has got better. I have improved. I have made progress. It is worth sharing with other people. I think that could be something which would be actually quite valuable for me, even though I would find it difficult to get it out there, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. I'm surrounded by all these people that are sharing left and right about like, what they're doing. And I'm like, well, I don't know that I'm there yet. But what I love so much about what you just said is like seeing your own improvement, right? Like being able to have, even if it's not shared with the world, at the very end of the day, you have an opportunity to reflect. And I think that that's kind of what's most important in this process, right? The reflection of self with your educator, the person you're coaching, whatever it may be.
I think,
what about, go ahead.
No, you go on.
No, your go. Let's go. I want to hear it.
No, I just think some people like I tend to be very self-critical. I'm quite critical about what I do. So then I need to get out of that and just be a bit more of a risk taker, I guess.
Yeah. And honestly, those risks could be small, right? So you start now with a digital portfolio and then eventually maybe share that link with people like us, right? And we could be like, this is awesome and hype you up or whatever. So we also have to create a coaching portfolio for the full like certification, right? And myself personally, you know, being a full-time teacher, I've had a lot of conversations with actually Georgina about this and that idea of like, well, I'm teaching full-time, like when am I going to get all of these materials? And she put a lot into perspective, the idea that like portfolios don't need to be these, you know, huge drawn out things. If you meet with teachers, you know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes throughout the course, multiple throughout the course of the week, you know, take your screenshots, find those narratives, save the text messages or emails that say, hey, I tried that thing we talked about and it worked. And, you know, so much of my brain space was devoted to like, how am I going to create this like huge thing? And by reframing that, I felt like it was really, really like took some of the weight off my shoulders a little bit. What do you guys think, Melissa?
Is there a list somewhere? I mean, I feel like I've seen that somewhere, but I'm so inundated with stuff that I'm not even sure. You know, is it in the coaching curriculum thing somewhere?
Becky?
I think it is, and I'm actually kind of in the same boat of I don't 100% know what needs to be turned in. So our thought was for not this monthly meeting, which is on Saturday, not a shameless plug. I'm excited for this Saturday because it is going to help us with collecting data for our portfolio. But I'm thinking next month's monthly meeting, we talked about inviting Stephanie Howell, which I know she's going to watch this afterwards. So Stephanie, this is your invite right now, and I'll email you to come and share what needs to be in the coaching portfolio and really kind of give us a checklist because it's like somewhere, but it wasn't as clear for me as what I need. I need that genuine, like, tell me, like, I need, give me my bullet point list so I can check, yep, added that. So that's what I'm thinking for October monthly meet is to have staff come in because then that gives us kind of right in that between, if you've already started a coaching cycle, you'll probably be starting your second round. And if you didn't gather everything your first round, you can make sure to get it second round because we are supposed to do 2 before we apply. So I think we'll get a confirmed list. I started something and it was clear as mud, so I didn't share it.
Yeah, I looked on the Teacher Center just the other day about it because I was like, same thing, very confused. So it'll be nice to have Steph's kind of background ideas about that since she's kind of done the whole thing. So Melissa, I know we're at 5:01 and I don't want to hold you guys longer than an hour really, but do you guys have anything you want to add about the power of digital portfolio?
My only add is that you and I should probably have virtual coffee because I feel like I could have the same, you can give me Georgina's insights, the whole teacher juggle thing. So that was my only add.
I'd love to have coffee with you anytime. Yeah, we'll connect for sure. Cause I think we're in like largely the same boat with the full load and such. So the last question is about badging and gamification, and badging and gamification is a good time, right? And I think that, you know, this idea, what I really liked here, so Francis, this is yours again, right? Because you went for it and I appreciate it. Usually I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So you have these internal badges you've talked about, but what I really, really loved were these other badges that you mentioned. Can you talk about those, the ones I highlighted just a little bit?
Yeah,
Those supporting
and just before we came on, I had a little bit of time while I was waiting, as it's midnight here. So I started creating some little badges, like shared a resource in supporting a friend, and like silly little things like that. And I'm going to try and risk sending them out when they're finished and see what happens. So I'll tell you how I get on. Yeah.
We're holding you to that, Francis. We're gonna follow up on Twitter. We want to see those. But I love that idea, right? It doesn't need to always be techie, because not all of the things that we do are techie. And
for us, it's really important that we build a team. That's the biggest thing that we're lacking. We don't have a team, and we really need to work at it. So that's what I've been working on for the last few months. So hopefully, I don't know.
I can't wait to see what comes out of it, Francis. I'm sure it's going to be exceptional, because you're exceptional. Any other thoughts on badging, gamification? I mean, Francis kind of like gave us, put the pin in the paper there, but I do want to make sure that we have all voices shared.
I've been looking at it for a little while. I really, really like it. It just, to truly dive into gamification is kind of redoing how you structure your class, and that obviously takes time. And so I'm kind of like dive right in everything person, and I needed to kind of step back and see how I can implement it in like pieces. And the first thing that I think I'm going to do this year, and I have to find out where to do it, is Google Forms and Autocrat. So giving sending that a certification, job well done kind of thing, kind of like you get a reward in a game, is kind of what I'm and then the badges. I'm like all about this, because it's that instant gratification that kids really, really like. They're like, yes, especially when, like, going back to question 1, giving quality feedback can be so time consuming, and it's not always feasible to do right away. Having those kind of badges and auto certificates and things like that, where they get that instant gratification, that feedback, it's generic, but they're like, yes, I did it right, yes, I got it. And so they might be looking for that more direct feedback. Sorry, my husband's letting my dog out. But that more personalized feedback later, once they get that like stamp that they did a good job, or that they like completed something or whatever. So I'm really excited about it too. So Francis, we're all gonna wait for that feedback.
We're looking forward to it. Yeah, it's a lot like Melissa was talking about, that intrinsic motivation, that building, right? The building confidence.
Well, and I think I was reading it in the book where she was talking about the coffee thing. Was that where I was reading that, about the coffee, going and getting certain matter of points on the coffee things? And I thought about that. Like I have my Fitbit, we do Fitbit bingo. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not want to go walking this morning. I was like, I'm tired. But then I thought, if I don't walk today, I'm not going to flip those little tiles, on my Fitbit bingo. I don't get anything from it but to flip the tiles. And that's like a huge, so I went walking this morning, but so it's not just kids, it's adults. So we were thinking about doing some badging things for our PD, trying to motivate teachers, and we're hoping to move it towards like actual pay scale type stuff when you earn a certain amount of badges or whatever. But we are like below baby steps on that one. So any information you guys have on that, I'm very curious and interested too.
Yeah. I mean, we know adults are interested in badging. Like, how many people do you know on Twitter who is like, hey, got my badge today. Hey, got my badge today. And then they create those like banners. Right. So you're one of them, Jessica. But incentives matter. It helps motivate, helps get us excited. And so I think that I love, Francis, I'm going to go back to it. I love the fact that you're creating badges, and I would be so open to just using those ones. So, when you get them done, don't be afraid to share them, because I think they're wonderful. All right, for time's sake, I don't want to cut the conversation, but I do want to honor everybody's time. Just a reminder, we will be meeting up again on September 30th. It is chapter 8 and 9. And it will be at 9 a.m. this next time. Becky, you want to add?
And we are meeting this Saturday. This is a busy week for us. So if you're able to come this Saturday, please do. 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon. Francis, I'm so sorry. I have no idea what that would be your time.
I don't know yet either. 5 o'clock maybe?
5 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. 5 p.m. And that is where we are going to have Susanna Summers share about how she's collecting data as a coach. And each time she's meeting, she created Connect Hub, which is free for everyone. And it's a coach's resource where you just kind of document all of your different meetings and everything. And I've been meaning to dive in. And then when she offered to do the session, I realized I'm going to wait and learn before I do what I normally do, which is dive in and then reteach myself. So that's this Saturday.
Yeah. Well, cool. Guys,
I'm sorry, did you say it was free? Because when I clicked on it, it said there was like a 15-day trial.
Oh, unless it's changed?
I just downloaded it the other day and it wasn't, but maybe within the last week or so, but the app that I have, it's free for me on that end. So
yeah, it's free still. It's free for personal, pro will be down after. Okay, so there's a personal limited, and then there is a pro, which you can pay for, but there is one that stays free always. You just don't have like all of the pro stuff. So
I guess we'll learn more this Saturday when she, you know, and that'll obviously, we'll share that out too if people can't make it. And so.
Okay. It just says trial 28 days left. And so I'm like, oh, okay. But I don't know. I must have access to the pro version for 28 days.
Yes, yep. It says personal pro will be downgraded after free trial. So, yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, guys, even though we're a small group, I feel like the conversation has been rich and I've enjoyed the time with you. And I hope that we can connect this week. One thing I'd like more and more and more is like for us to be able to connect via Twitter throughout the week, encouraging kind of each other along on this journey. So we're not friends yet at @smore_teach. We'll put it in the EC Open chat maybe, and maybe we can connect that way. So cool. Thank you guys so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. Get some sleep, Francis, and share.
Will do. Bye.
Bye.
Great job.
Are we still recording?
Let me